and 590 Sportsnet. First question, talked to you last year about just Luka.
Yeah.
What have you seen so far in year two? Are you more impressed than you were last year for what you've seen?
Yeah, I don't know how you couldn't be as impressive, not more impressed. Stacking up the triple doubles already. I was just talking to Matt Devlin, the Raptors TV play-by-play guy, and we were both just watching him warm up, saying what a special kid he is. The talent is just through the roof, and the crazy thing is, as we often talk about in Toronto with Pascal Siakam, is he's only getting better when you think of Luka and how good he is already, and to project what he might be at the end of this year, let alone in a couple of years, let alone in a few years. There's no doubt Dallas has got a special one, and now with the opportunity to put him together with Porzingis, it's one heck of a 1-2 punch, and obviously a reason to be extremely optimistic about the future, both kind of close future and distant future, if you're a Dallas Mavericks fan.
And last year, this time, around this time,
yep,
we talked about, hey, can the Raptors get it done in the playoffs?
Yeah.
So what has the city been like? What has it been like for you since the championship?
Last year was off the charts. There's no doubt. I would need probably an hour to describe how things went in the playoffs, and then of course with the championship, with the victory, and then the parade itself. It's been unbelievable. It's kind of the culmination for so many Raptor fans of this now being the 25th anniversary season, where it's just finally all come together. And you look at this team now, 6-7 straight years in the playoffs, making it to the finals, winning the finals, going through that parade. Yeah, losing Kawhi, but then getting off to a hot start this year. The Leafs are struggling a little bit right now. The Jays have kind of taken a bit of a dive the last couple of years, and it's been really the Raptors that have kind of held things together for a lot of sports fans, not just in Toronto, but then, kind of speaking a little more nationally across the country. There are more and more basketball fans that are popping up, and you hear all the stories now about participation sports in Canada. It's soccer and basketball number 1 and 2. It's not necessarily hockey anymore. It's just the growth of the game, the popularity of the game, and a lot of it is clearly attached to what the Raptors have done and clearly what they did in winning the championship.
I got a tough one for you. So we interviewed Gilbert Arenas this summer. He basically asked about the stigma. Is there a stigma to play in Toronto after Kawhi left?
Yeah.
He basically said that it's a challenge for a lot of American kids, American families. Do you feel that Kawhi leaving leaves any stigma towards the organization, towards the city, or do you think this is something that can be hurdled eventually?
I personally don't feel. I remember seeing those comments, reading those comments from Gilbert. I didn't agree with it at the time, and I don't now. I think the Kawhi situation was somewhat unique in that how many times do you have a team with cap money to spend, with a boatload of money to spend, on a guy who's a free agent who happens to be from that town as well, who also happens to be a unique personality in that, Kawhi, I think, maybe even more so than a lot of guys, put family first, city first, comfort first, more than anything else. I think it was kind of an unlikely storm that we might not see again, potentially. What would it be if we were talking, and I make sure, be clear here, I'm not starting any rumors here, but in 4 years or something, if RJ Barrett decides that he doesn't want to play in New York and he's a free agent and he wants to hold out and ultimately try and sign a contract with the Raptors and go back home, are people going to say that he doesn't like New York or they wanted out, or is it simply that he wanted to go home and play for his hometown and play for the Raptors? To me, even we're not talking hometown here, but Porzingis in New York, in the biggest market, in the Mecca at MSG, and yet he didn't want to be there. He wanted a fresh start somewhere else. He got it here in Dallas. So I don't think it was a knock, to go back to your original question, I don't think it was a knock on Toronto. I don't think it was a knock on Canada that Kawhi ultimately decided to go to LA. I don't personally think it leaves a stigma or anything either, because I've always been about if you win, players will want to come. Now, they won the championship, and maybe the top guy left, but the top guy left to go home to be with family, and I think it's a different situation. Paul George, in a winning environment, a winning situation in Oklahoma City, playing with one of the top point guards, wanted out as well and a chance to go home potentially. The trade was orchestrated. So, I look at those unique situations, and I don't think it's just Canada. If we go back 15, 20 years ago, maybe that was the case, but 25 years in now, I got to think, money talks, wins talk. I don't think too many guys are all that concerned about being north of the border. And I'm biased because I'm Canadian, but other than the money being a different color, I'm not even here for any of the talk about weather either, because if you go through the list, there's 14 cities that I can count off the top of my head that have snow in the NBA, and it's just as damn cold in Chicago and in Boston and in New York and in Minnesota and Milwaukee as it is in Toronto. So this whole garbage about weather and snow and everything else, it's cold in almost every Eastern Conference city and cold in probably 14 of the 30 teams in the league. So I'm tired of hearing that one too.
Obviously, Vince announced this is his last year.
Yep.
Are you surprised that it's not with the Toronto Raptors?
I thought that there might have been some interest in him coming back, but again, maybe it was a case of, with due respect to Vince,
right,
how is he going to fit on this Raptors team? Can he help us off a championship be better? I think still, though, in my heart, that he signs a deal for one day even and retires as a Raptor. I don't know if the Raptors as an organization truly have that interest or not, but if you're asking me, I think that would be the great way to end the story, and I think that it would be a great gesture on the Raptors organization's behalf if they were to do that. And I still think that his jersey will be hanging in the rafters in Toronto one day. So the Toronto connections with Vince, I still think run deep. But yeah, there was a little bit of surprise on my part that he ultimately wasn't brought back.
And then Spicy P
yep.
Is, I guess last year was considered the Robin to
Kawhi's Batman.
Kawhi's Batman.
Yeah.
Do you see the comparison in the situation with the Bulls when Michael Jordan left, when Scottie Pippen led the Bulls to 50 wins and still had him as a playoff contender? Do you see that in the case of Siakam this year?
Man, it's the first time anybody's compared, the Kawhi Pascal to Pippen and Jordan. I due respect to Pascal. I don't know if I'm putting him on Scottie Pippen's level yet, and that's more respect for Scottie than it is disrespect for Pascal, because he's been incredible. But it's probably a fair one that you bring up. I mean, when you think about at least the way, we're only 11, 12 games into the season, but the way that Pascal has played to this point, the numbers that he's putting up, the fact that he's already essentially become the cornerstone guy for the team, he's been awarded the max contract. I think, as I said about Luka off the top, he's only getting better, too, when you think of Pascal. He's been playing basketball for less than 10 years. This is the scary thing about him. How good can he actually be? So, yeah, I would ask you guys as well, or ask folks, that were south of the border, how good did you think the Raptors were going to be, or did you think they were going to fall off? Because I would say, and again, not trying to take away from Pascal, I thought this was still a very good team. I thought Toronto had every reason to think that they were still amongst the top three in the conference, with Milwaukee likely still being number one, and then kind of battle it out with Boston, with Philadelphia. And I think if it would be a disappointment for the Raptors if they weren't a team that had home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. You get that first round, home court, get me into the second round. Now all I got to do is win one more round. I'm in the conference finals again, and after that, all bets are off. So I think Toronto was and is still a very good team, and Pascal the primary reason for it.
Last before you, because my battery's dying.
Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
On the Vince subject, just to revert back for just a second, is there a bigger rift than maybe the fans or media that we realize? The fact that he didn't come back, and you think maybe there could be, if the Hawks are out of it, maybe mid-season trade?
Personally, I don't think so. I mean, the hatchet was buried years ago. It's a couple of times. I mean, I'm trying to think back now, 4 or 5 years at least, when Vince came back to town, and there was a huge video tribute for him at Scotiabank Arena, and Vince was literally and figuratively brought to tears on the court, in the middle of a timeout. Since he's been back, and I'm sure when he comes back this year, especially in the 25th anniversary season, there will be another video tribute as they pay, homage to all of the great players in Raptor history. Vince is cheered loudly, even standing ovations regularly when he comes back to town now, whether it be, with Sacramento, whether it be with Atlanta now. He is loved in Toronto by more people than he's hated. And as far as the organization, I have had no reason to think, or nobody tell me, that the organization dislikes Vince. Vince dislikes the organization. I really think it just wasn't the right fit for them with Vince at this stage of his career, and arguably probably not the right fit for Vince either. You think, look at what Vince has done and where he's gone over the last 5 years at least, the later stages of his career. He's generally gone to younger teams where he's had a chance to grow with them, build with them, and be that veteran voice. And I also think, speculating a little bit here, maybe Vince enjoyed being in Atlanta because it keeps him close to the Turner Broadcast Building and NBA TV and TNT, because I'm positive that's his next step, and that's where he'll be next year when he's not playing in the league.
Slam dunk contest?
I'd love it. I'd fully endorse that and fully support that. Bring him back.
Thank you, Eric.
All right.